and then we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm going to jump right into a share screen because we've got a lot to cover, and I want to leave some time at the end, also for questions. So let me go right in here. Get out of my way. Dotloop. All right, I'm going to shrink you guys down so that way you're not covering up my screen. So please unmute yourself at any time and just go ahead and shout out a question because I can't see any of your faces. All right, and also if I get clucking along too fast, because I can tend to start zipping through really fast. So if someone needs me to slow it down, please don't be afraid to unmute yourself and ask a question, or just tell me slow it down. All right, so a couple just basic things. So when you log on to your Dotloop, yours isn't going to look exactly like mine because I have a lot of loops, and I like this version. So there's a couple of different views you can have. I just happen to like this view. So kind of across the top, this is where you can see all of your loops. This is where you can find all of the templates if you would need to just go directly into templates. But really, I think what you're going to do every time you get onto Dotloop is you're going to start by creating a new loop, unless you're searching for a loop you already have. I wanted to mention, because this keeps coming up, especially for people who are, doing their first transactions, wouldn't necessarily know this. When you create a loop for a buyer and you share it with the listing agent, and then they go ahead and have their client sign and they share it back with you, they maybe will share it back with you in their own loop. And so what I mean by that is, if you end up with two loops with the same address, it's probably because they wanted to use their own loop, and when they shared those docs back, they're in that loop. So it's not unusual that you end up with multiple loops with the same address, even though you only created one. I happen to be the kind of person who doesn't like merging loops, and I like working out of my loop because my loop has my people in it. So what you would want to do in that case is just make a copy of the docs from somebody else's loop and move them to yours. And I'll kind of show you how to do that too. All right, so creating a loop, you're just going to say add a loop. I'll tell you, just do what you're doing and don't stop and pay attention to every window that pops up, because you aren't going to necessarily need to do everything it's asking. Like, you don't have to add a photo. I don't usually add the template at this time either. So I'm just going to go with the usual 123 Main Street. And you'll see I bypass. I don't like to just go down and click on the one that they have available, because it says USA and it doesn't have the zip code sometimes, and I want it to autofill my documents. So you don't have to go down and choose one of these. So why there's actually a South Main Street, obviously, in North Canton, so that's probably a real property. In any case, when you start to select something here, sometimes it'll say another agent's name, and that's when you're merging loops. Again, I don't prefer to do that, so I just start hitting enter, 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 and now my loop is created. Then I scroll down a little bit and view the loop. So now we have a loop, and everything I'm going to do is from top down. I don't want it just to say select transaction type. I want to select it. So I'm going to say purchase, and I'm going to say pre-offer. I will tell you, these statuses might not seem important right now, but when you have hundreds of loop and you want to filter things out, that's what this is for. So I would change it to under contract, and then even move it to sold status as we progress through that sale. Okay. I also don't like my folder just to say folder. I want to know what this is. So let's just pretend for a second that this was a listing loop. I would name this folder listing docs. And then when I get an offer, I would add a new folder. And then I'm going to maybe name that folder buyer docs. So you can see you can keep adding new folders if needed. I don't necessarily want my documents completely separate unless it's two different folders. So here's the way I learned Dotloop from Dotloop. Luckily for me, 10 years ago or whatever it was, Dotloop came to Canton, Ohio and trained for a month. And the way they explained it to me, which I have a full understanding of, is Dotloop's like a file cabinet stationary in your office. So that's Dotloop. When you open up the drawer, what you find inside are the green hanging folders. Those green hanging folders are each of your individual loops. And then within those green hanging folders, you have your manila folders or file folders, which we would call here our folders. And then within those folders are pieces of paper, which are your documents, which we will be adding. So the only time I would need multiple folders is if I have multiple sections or, groupings of paperwork. So for example, if this were a listing, I would name one of my folders listing documents, which I want to keep separate from my offers I get, which would be then buyer docs. And then I would, because we're in a crazy time with multiple offers, you probably want to name it buyer docs / the last name of the agent. This way you can kind of learn and know what, how to keep those things divided up. You don't need a different loop for all of those. But again, I will caution you as a listing agent, you may end up with 17 loops because each agent shared their documents with you in entirely different loops. Again, I want everything in my own loop. If we don't accept this offer, I'm just going to archive that folder and now it's gone. It's never going to be deleted. It's just going to go away. So now I'm going to rename this folder, and right over here to the gray little dots. This does a lot of stuff, those gray little dots. I'm going to rename it. And I'm going to say buyer docs. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the bottom and I'm going to start adding people. So let's just, oops. I'm just going to pick a random person. If they already were someone who was in here, they're going to show up just like this. And then their email address is going to pop up just like that. If you've never added them before, then you're going to put their name and email address. I will caution you, here's a little glitch. You see where I have my mouse? If you put a space accidentally, it's going to say it was a wrong email address, and you'll never understand why the people aren't getting the docs. And don't ask me how I figured that out. I just did. It's a strange little glitch to make note of. Don't put a space after the .com. They have to have a role. So I'm going to say this is a buyer. So for those of you in my coaching, you hear me often say, add me to every loop and add me as a team member. This is where you do that. You only want to check the box as add to a team member if one, you're on a team, or two, you're in my coaching and I need to be able to see your documents. This is where you do that. So you want to add your buyer, you want to add the listing agent, you want to probably add the lender. If there's two buyers, you want to add both buyers and they're both labeled buyer. I like to get all my people in right now. So buyers, listing agent, lender. All right. Any questions about that? All right, add documents. There's a couple of different ways you're going to add documents. So when you click it, you've got these three blue bubbles. You can add documents from your email. You can add downloads to your computer, or you can go to templates. So let's just start with templates. So here's the templates. I do want to take a minute in templates and show you that I have some of my own templates here. So these top ones are, one is my inbox. So by the way, you can scan to yourself and they can go directly into your inbox. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. I created miscellaneous, listing sheet, more miscellaneous, listing docs, more miscellaneous, and buyer docs myself. So all those top ones are folders that I created myself, and we'll go into that when I go into templates. The rest of these are just company templates. The reason I create some of my own is because I already start to fill them out. So let's just go to buyer docs. And rather than just, so Corey, to answer your question here, I've created a folder with all the docs that I know that I need, and I pulled those from the company template. So that way I don't end up with 2 purchase agreements and stuff like that. But in this case, I know I can probably select all if I wanted to. I might not need the whole lead-based paint, you know, pamphlet or something like that. So I'm probably going to just still go in here and select. So consumer guide, maybe the home warranty, purchase agreement, buyer's agency. I guess I do have a large print as well in here. Agency, anti-fraud, and an ABA. So that's what I'm going to need. I'm probably going to need the property disclosure and lead-based paint from the MLS. I don't want to turn this to an MLS class, but on the MLS, there's something called supplements, which is usually somewhere on or around the photograph of the house when you're logged onto it. In the supplements are the property disclosure and lead-based paint. I would open those up and download them to your computer, because then you can browse to them by going add document to browse on your computer. And obviously I have a bunch of stuff in here. So let's just see. I can pick anything I want and pull it over. I want to have it be a PDF. Let's just pick that. Pretend like that's a property disclosure. And now it's in. So here it is. So the one unique thing about that document is it's now called a flat PDF. It's not prepared with signatures, so you're going to have to add those on yourself. Another way to bring documents in is from your email. So maybe you scanned and emailed, like let's just say you took a packet of listing paperwork with you to a listing appointment, which I would recommend doing. I'm sitting there at the house with them. I'm not going to say I'll Dotloop you the documents later. I'm already here. Let's get them signed. And the way I now got them into Dotloop is I just went to the scanner and I scanned and emailed them to myself. So I clicked add documents from email, copy to clipboard. And now I'm going to go over to my email. And thank you to Sam for sending me a packet of info, which is right here. So there's the scan. I'm just going to hit forward, paste, send. So now I'm going to go back to Dotloop, and you're going to need to refresh the page. And there's the scan documents right there. So we're going to do something a little different with those. So I'll get back to that here in a second, but I just wanted to show you the 3 ways that you get documents in. This document came from my email, this document came from my download, and these came from the templates. I also like let's just pretend like this is a pre-approval letter for the heck of it. I like to rename the documents. So I'm going to go over here and hit rename. I'm going to call it pre-approval letter. Oops. Well, I spelled it wrong. Oh, well. Anyway, so now I changed it. I also like a particular order with my documents. Now I'm being really picky. You guys can leave them however you want, but I just want you to know the abilities that you have. I like my pre-approval letter to be first. So all I did was click on it and drag it. I like my purchase agreement to be second. Drag it. I like my agency disclosure next, and this is just my own preference. Probably the property disclosure would go somewhere after that. I like my ABA to be next. So that anything here at the bottom, if we aren't doing a home warranty, let's say in this case we're not, I'm just going to get rid of it, archive, and now it's gone. The documents here at the bottom, these don't get sent with your offer. So keeping in mind that the only documents that the listing agent needs is the documents pertaining to the offer. your consumer guide, your anti-fraud, and your exclusive buyer's agency doesn't have anything to do with this transaction pertaining to the other agent. So that's why I like to have certain things up here at the top. Okay, so now you can open up the documents one at a time, but I would not recommend doing that. It won't autofill for you if you do that. If you check the box, now you have this option up here. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck my document, which we know is not a pre-approval letter. And I'm also going to uncheck this one here because that's the one I'm going to show you how to split. So actually, I'm going to move that down. So now here's the ones that I want it to autofill for me. And now I'm going to hit open. Why didn't it work? Oh, here we go. That happened to me last time too. Here's why. We have to type the address. Sometimes the address shows up here and sometimes it doesn't. Main Street, Canton. So you might have to type it. Nope, I want to importing data, but now my information is here. And then when I hit autofill, it should work. There we go. So it autofilled the county, the address, and it probably autofilled my buyer's name. You only have one chance to autofill. So if you open up one of those documents individually, you will only be autofilling that one document, not everything. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to type this address 15 times. So I like the autofill option. I'm not going to turn it into a contracts class, but you're going to fill in the rest of the blanks. So you want to make sure you double check on that parcel number, and then you start filling out your paperwork. So here's another thing I want to show you as we get down to initials and signatures. If there's not two buyers, I get rid of the second one. So we don't need both. I also don't like it to say buyer sign here. So when you click it, you can go up and assign it that way. Go to this box, go down to your buyer's name, and then it says their initial. This second one, I don't want, what ends up happening is a lender thinks there's two buyers when they see a set of initials. And then what it is the same person initialed twice. So you click it, and then this black bar comes up with this red X, and then you delete it. So assign, delete. Don't miss this one. Sign, delete. You're filling all this out as you go, and so on. And then down here, same thing. Buyer is Sarah. Fill in my information. I really do try to fill in the seller's information, by the way, on everything. If you do not, and your offer is accepted, when the listing agent goes to make the changes to your contract, your buyer's signatures will be deleted. So go to the property disclosure, cross-reference with the tax record to be able to fill in the seller's name. So you're going to type that there. In this case, it'll be my son. So here, again, I don't want to turn into a contracts class, but we don't fill out all three sections. And I can't tell you how many times I get an offer and they filled out that they were a transaction involving two agents with two different brokerages. They filled out in transaction involving two agents in the same brokerage, and then transaction involving one real estate agent. So if you guys just read those bold, you'll know which one you fit into. So let's just pretend like we are two agents with Keller Williams. And you'll notice when I start typing Keller, this pops up. And that's because in templates, all the way at the bottom, there's something called clauses. And you can create as many clauses or whatever you want them to be. That way you don't have to type everything 100 times. So same with my name. Oops. All right. So same here. This is not an assigned field. It just says sign here. So you have to change that to the buyer and then get rid of the second one. Same with the initials. And then you're going to fill in your purchaser's name. Now, you'll see that the purchaser's name did not autofill, and that's because this was not originally a Dotloop document. We turned it into one, and whoever created this document only put the field for autofill under property. So we would have to type in the buyer's name, which I don't know how we're spelling it. So we're just going to say Sarah K, and then we're going to put the seller's name. Same thing here, assign, delete, and so on through your paperwork. I don't know why I put his name there. Another thing too, so you'll see that because I pulled this over from my own templates, I have certain things already pre-filled out. So my buyer's agency agreement, I do not want the address of the property. Why? Because if they don't get this house, then I have to have them sign a new one. And basically, if you have 123 Main Street on here, your agreement with that person is only good for that property, which why would we want that? If we haven't already gotten a buyer's agency signed prior to writing an offer, this is our opportunity to have one signed for a 6-month period, which I tend to select is 6 months. So you just write in the word residential property and it's covered on anything that they should purchase through that time frame. And again, it auto-filled for there. Delete that one. And then this signature is for you. So you're gonna click it, assign it to yourself, sign now, which by the way is what they see when they get it, adopt and sign, and there's my electronic signature. Also, let me mention that it dates it. So I do see a lot of people spend an awful lot of time going to add dates and selecting today's date, which is totally an extra thing that's not needed. So to get rid of it. All right. And now I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. Go back. And that's now it's ready to go. So if I'm ready to share it with my client, I can select the ones that are going and hit share. And the system knows this is the person that has 13 fields. So it should already be checked. And it should already say can sign. But while we're here, I want to show you that there's some different permissions. Who would get a view only? Well, the lender is going to get a view only of the fully signed contract. The title company is going to get a view only of the fully signed contract. If my client wants to review the documents before signing and they didn't give me all the answers, so let's just say, hey, you know what, it's a coming soon and I'm going to get the paperwork started ahead of time. Of course, we don't know what our offer is going to be or what our inspections are, but I'm going to go ahead and fill everything out and we're going to review those documents. So that way, when we go to the showing tomorrow, all I need to know is the price. So I don't want to give them a can sign view if that's the situation, which by the way, I highly recommend doing in advance. I would send them a just view. And this way now they can look it over. We can discuss all the documents prior to even the showing. And that way in this crazy hot market, they're ready to go. And then tomorrow when we're ready, I plug in my numbers and then I reshare it with the can sign. The only time you're going to use a can fill in sign is if someone actually needs to fill something out. So in most cases, that would be like the property disclosure. So let's just say it's a seller and for some reason, you're not going to be doing this as an in-person appointment. I want to get them that lead-based paint and property disclosure, and they need to be able to have access to fill in those little check boxes. If I send them a can sign, they do not have the ability to fill and sign. There's very few times that I need someone to be able to can fill and sign. So that is an example of one of them. I would recommend whenever you're sending someone something that they fill out and sign, I would send it separate. I would send, because otherwise they can make changes to your other paperwork. I don't want a seller to be able to change what I already put on the rest of the paperwork that maybe they're signing. So I would share with them the property disclosure and lead-based paint first with the can, fill, and sign, and then the rest of the paper later in a separate email with the can sign. Pretty much the only person that's going to get the can edit in private is the other agent. So the listing agent, the buyer agent, whatever. I can't tell you how many times I get a counter offer and they didn't give me the can edit in private. They gave me the can sign. Well, I'm not the buyer or the seller, so I can't sign. So that document does me no good when they're telling me that I can sign, because that's basically saying Gina can sign the documents. You need to be sharing the can edit in private with the other agent unless we already have an agreed contract and your buyer has re-signed or reinitialed and you're just sending it back to the agent, which is now fully signed. And in that case, they would get the view only because there's no other editing needed. So I know that's a lot to swallow. Questions about any of that? It automatically has a PDF within Dotloop, but if you wanted to attach a PDF, you can. I never check this box and it still becomes a PDF. I don't know why some agents are like, I need the PDF. I suppose that's because they want to print from their email perhaps, but Dotloop already is a PDF. And then you just hit share. All right. So I'm going to finish up with the split documents here, and then we're going to pop over to templates. By the way, there are tasks that you can do down here. I just don't use tasks. You can create a template for yourself of tasks. So for example, collector earnest money, check, done. Scheduled home inspection, check, done. Share the documents with the lender and the title company. All the different things that you would be doing during a pending transaction, you do have the ability to, there are templates for tasks, but you can also modify and create your own. It's just not a place that I would ever go for my checklist, so I don't use that. All right, so I'm going to uncheck these. I also tell you this, when nothing's checked, there's no share button. So I get a lot of, I don't see how I share. At least one thing has to be checked before you can share, or opened. So if we open it by itself, then the share button's here. All right. So now I've got this flat PDF that got scanned to me. Let's just say it was from another agent. And this is just a packet of flat PDF. So this is actually just blank buyer paperwork. When I would have a flat PDF is probably when I've listed a house and I've got all of my docs just like this filled out in person. So it's filled out in print. But as you can see, this is not a Dotloop document like the last agency disclosure that we just saw. This is a scanned in PDF. So we really can't do anything with this document as it sits. So the first thing I want to do with it is I don't want this to be the name of my document. So if we go back, this is what it's called. We don't want that. We want to split this document. You can only split it before there are signatures on it. You will not have this ability right here once people have signed, because Dotloop recognizes that as someone's trying to change the contract. To me, splitting documents is a really easy way of keeping your stuff organized, but also not having to download and re-upload individual documents. So I'm going to hit split, and it's going to give me an option for how many pages and how many pages each document is. So let me just scroll down here and see how many. So there's 13 pages. I'm going to go back up to the top. So I'm going to say we're going to split this document into 13. And now it's asking me file name and how many pages. So this first one, 1, 2, is the agency disclosure. And it's 2 pages. So I'm going to go from 1 Where's my drop down? Why is it not cooperating? There we go, to 2. It's touchy. We have to do 10 and then do the last 3. So that's agency disclosure. The next one is the anti-fraud, which is only 1 page. So 3 of 3 is the anti-fraud. The next one is the consumer guide. So page 4 and 5. So 4 to 5 is the consumer guide. The next one is the escrow instructions, and that's just 1 page. And then our purchase agreement goes from 7 to 11. So this is oops. I don't know why this is not cooperating today. It's trying to do 10 only at a time. Anyway, you get the point. So this one is from 6 to the last it's giving me is 8, because then I have to resplit from there. And then we just finish up, split documents, go back. That is so weird. That is not how it normally looks. I don't know what's happening today. Naturally, when I'm trying to do something on Dotloop, it's glitching. It would normally say the names of the documents. Oh, here it is up here. It's the ones that didn't get split yet. Agency disclosure, anti-fraud, consumer guide, blah, blah, blah. So if I have duplicates, because this was my original offer, but I needed to scan it in, I would recommend you archive the ones that you don't need. So when you don't need something, you're just going to go over here and archive it. You can't ever delete. You can always get your archive back by saying show archive. And then they're in light gray down here, and you can choose to unarchive if you want. But I'm not going to do that. I want to go back to a couple of, well, we'll just use this one. So again, now I'm going to go back to this agency disclosure because it's a flat PDF and I need to make it a Dotloop document. So now I'm going to say add text, and I'm going to drag that text to wherever I want it. And then that little arrow at the corner makes it bigger. And then I can type in, you know, whatever I want to there. And then add text, plop it where you need it. Obviously, if I scan this in, it probably is pre-filled out, meaning all of this was filled out and I'm just splitting the document. But if you receive something back that's a flat PDF and you need to add anything to it, that's how. If I need to add a checkbox, just drag it and then click in the middle. I'll also tell you that this is really touchy if you try to do this from your phone. You're not going to have a lot of luck. When you have to drag these things, especially that tiny little checkbox, and you try to drop it and click in the center of it, it's not that easy to do from an iPad or a phone. So same with add signature. And then I need to assign that signature. And if I needed to add an initial, I'm just dropping it where I need it and then assign it. And then save. So for example, on your property disclosures, that's a flat PDF that you downloaded from the MLS. You'll need to add and drop your initials and signatures on those documents that way. Any questions on the loop documents, how to prepare them, how to share them before I move on to templates.
I got a question.
Yep.
You said earlier about refreshing the page. Can you show us how to do that?
Right here. This little circle arrow right next to your toolbar across the top.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And if you don't easily find your refresh, you can just do this, go back to my loops and then back into the loop, and that refreshes it too.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, back to my loops. And then I'm going to go into templates. All right. So it looks a little different when you go into templates this way than when you're just adding documents. There's a lot more options and you see a lot more things. And the first thing I want to draw your attention to is your upload files by emailing to your unique Dotloop email address. I think this is an amazing time saver. So I use it all the time. If I don't want to scan in to my email like that packet of documents I just pulled over, if I'm at the scanner, why not just type this in and then it shows right up in my inbox? So everybody has their own unique Dotloop email address. Mine just happens to be gina.ferrer.5@upload.dotloop.com. If you have a scanner at home that you can preset in, I would recommend doing this. I used to have this preset over on Jose's side on the scanner over there. Makes life real quick and easy, and all those documents show up right here in your inbox. So when you're in a loop and you say add document from template, you can select your inbox and choose the document right here. And then it is a PDF as well. So that goes in real quick and easy that way. All right. As I had mentioned, I created some of my own folders, and you can do that right here. So new folder. And again, this is why I have so many miscellaneous. Let me just call it just buyer docs. Buyer docs 2. So I don't mix it up. Create folder. So now I have a blank folder that has nothing in it, and I want to put some documents in there. So I'm going to go to templates, just like you would from a loop. And I'm going to scroll down to the sales documents, and I'm going to select the ones that I want to go in. I don't need an amendment to the purchase agreement yet. So that's what I mean by there's some things in there that you might need later, but you don't need now. I'm probably not going to use an escalation clause, so I don't need to pull that over. Maybe I want the large print. Maybe I want the regular. I don't need a removal of contingencies, blah, blah, blah. Copy over. So now there's my docs in my folder, and I want to look at them. So now I'm going to open them up, and I'm going to modify them if needed. So if they're able, like obviously an ABA, you can't modify right now because you don't know the buyer's name, the seller's name, or the address of the property. But the buyer's agency agreement, you can. So I'm going to open that up. And like I said before, I'm going to write residential property. That's going to always be there now when I pull it over. And I can't really sign it right now because of the date, but that document's pretty simple. Just says residential property, go back, and now it's ready to go. And some other things that, like a listing contract, there's different things like that that you can put on there. Probably not a purchase agreement or anything like that. So now I have that folder. So every time I create a loop, I can just pull the templates right from that folder. And you can make as many as you want. I do miscellaneous because there's certain things that I don't want to go digging for that are in the Keller Williams miscellaneous. So I have a seller checklist, my status change form. I want that to be readily available. Addendums to the purchase agreement, vacant land property disclosure. That's another one that you got to dig really deep to find. I like my seller's net sheet that I created and put in there. The coming soon, different things that I have found that I want to have quick access to. I put in my own miscellaneous folder, just like how I showed you. Just create add folder and decide what documents that you think are easy for you to be able to find. All right, so here's where those tasks are that I was talking about, and clauses. So when you click clauses, these are the things that I type most frequently. So that's the clauses I've created. I had some others that I recently deleted. But if I start typing something a lot, I'm going to put that in. So for you guys, a clause might be your name, comma, my name. So this way, every time you start to type your name, it gives you the option. Do you want the version with Gina's name, which we all know that on the agency disclosure, if you're in my coaching, my name has to go on that agency disclosure. So you could create that clause for yourself. Back to loops is this way. You know, if I know the address of a property, I can start typing in the search. By the way, I recently had someone, I forget who it was, but she didn't know that this search was defined an address. When you've got this many loops, you don't want to have to scroll through. It's terrible. So if you know the address, you can just start typing it right here. Obviously, I don't have one that's that address, and then it's going to pop up. I don't know whose this is, but let's just open it up. Someone added me to their loop. And then there's their documents. Oh, Chris. So that's what happens when an agent in our group adds me as a team member. I get that invite, and that's how I can get in. So like, this is Chris's loop, but because he added me as a team member, now I have full access to see everything. And that way I can take a look at something for him and tell him what he might need to change or do. So back to loops. I mean, that is it, guys. Like it's as simple as that. There's not much else. I find it to be all right in front of me on a very limited screen. There's not windows that take you all over the place. I view it like a file cabinet that's quite compact. So from adding a loop and adding documents in to anything in the templates, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for you guys to, I won't stop share, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys to tell me questions, experiences, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, anything. This is your chance. It's better to ask in class now than at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night when you're in an all-out panic because you've got 15 minutes to get your offer submitted because there's multiple offers. So please think about all that I just went over, and anything that you want me to go over again or answer any questions, please ask.
Gina, I have a question.
Yeah.
When I was receiving offers, I know my camera's off. Sorry.
That's okay.
I look a mess anyway. You don't want to see me anyhow.
Okay.
When I went into my offer, I was getting it through email.
Yep.
And when I hit on the 3 buttons to like transfer it into the loop, it didn't go into my loop. It created a new loop. And what it actually did was pulled every offer that I received into that loop. All those people got transferred into, do they all get to see all that, or because I just archived everybody?
So like, I again, remember when I said, when you create a loop, don't answer some of the questions. Like, you must have said yes to something that you didn't know you did. Because that's like you merged all those loops is what
everybody
happened.
Did they get to see everything?
No.
Okay.
They're not team members. So that's a great question. So the only way, like, I can see your entire loop when you add me on the team.
Okay.
If I'm not on the team, which by the way, no one should ever be on your team but me, ever. Right. You don't add a listing agent or a buyer's agent to your team. They only can see what you share with them.
Okay. So yeah, I archived all the other people and got rid of them. So we should be good. I got nervous about that.
Yeah. So something happened. Offer. I mean, it probably wasn't a bad thing, because when you've got that many, you don't need to have that many loops. So by putting them together like that, probably actually saved you time. But I'm sure they were all in individual folders, right? They couldn't have all
No, they
been in
came
one.
through in one
Oh,
huge,
so
like,
weird. So all I could think is when you opened it, you said yes to something or hit continue on some question that allowed it to do that, because it wouldn't just automatically happen that way.
okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So just be careful when you guys are clicking through stuff that you don't necessarily hit continue or agree to things like that. But I don't think there was a disadvantage to that. Otherwise, it probably caused a little bit of organizational issue. But I do like to just divide them up out of my own loop. So let me just show you kind of how you can copy in and out of different loops too. So maybe I want to take this document. I wish Dotloop let you make a copy of the entire loop into, or the entire set of documents, but it doesn't. So if I go down over here to make a copy and I want it to go into a different loop, I'm going to say to loop. I'm just going to pick this loop and I'm going to put it in this loop and I'm going to put it in buyer docs and I'm going to hit copy. Now it's going to go over there. It doesn't take it out of here. It just adds it back into that loop, which by the way was this loop. So now I have it again for a second time. Another thing about that, let me just kind of show you that while we're on that topic. Let's say the, what one do I want to use? Well, nothing's signed, so it's not going to matter. Let's just say that the buyer's agent didn't put my seller's name here on this document. And I don't want to delete my client's signatures, but I want to add that name. I'm going to say make a copy. And this time I'm going to choose a flat PDF. When I choose a flat PDF, it's just a photo of it and then to my loop. And now it's a photo of it. Create a new folder. And then now it didn't delete my signature, and I can go in here and add signature, drop it, or add text box, drop it, and type my seller's name, and then it doesn't delete their signature. If I don't want to save, I hit no, otherwise yes. So does that make sense? That happens a lot. It's going to happen a lot, especially for a listing agent, because a lot of buyer's agents don't take the time to add my seller's name to the purchase agreement or the agency disclosure. And if I don't want signatures to get deleted, I just make that copy as a flat PDF back into the loop, and then I can add a text box without deleting signatures.
That's good to know.
Yeah, makes it real easy. Because it basically, it makes a photo of it. It doesn't delete the original that you have. It just makes a photo of the one, and then you can make the change without deleting signatures. What else, guys?
Gina, can you cover how to do the easy offer with Dotloop?
I don't know what you mean when you say easy offer.
Oh, so when you're the listing agent and you have your Dotloop file set up, there's a link that you can put in the MLS for the buyer agents to send the offers to, so that it goes.
So yeah, there's a reason I don't like it. I don't use that because I like to work out of my own loop, I guess is what I'm saying. So yes, so there is a Dotloop tab on the MLS. So that way you can make the offer go right in. I don't, again, I'm funny. I guess it's a controlling thing. I like working out of my loop. So I don't want to give people access. I prefer to put my own documents in my loop. So I don't use that at all. And I guess the advantage for that is this. When you got multiple offers, again, I just don't want, I want to be able to archive a whole loop to get it out. And when they all go into your loop, you're not going to archive your loop, although you can archive folders, but it's just a lot of stuff in there. And I like to keep it clean. And then for nothing else, when Amanda goes into compliance, when we get paid, I don't want her having to dig through a crap ton of folders and paperwork from all these different offers. or looking in 25 different loops because you've got your consumer guide and your buyer's agency in your loop, and then you've got your signed purchase agreement in a different loop. My people are in my loop, so to me, the advantage is I just keep putting everything back in my loop and archive the rest. So that's why I don't do the merge thing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? We've got about 10 minutes left.
Hey, Gina.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think had to do with like what Chris was saying, but I was noticing when it would say when you do your loop, it would say the listing agent was asking for when you put your offer in to not create a new loop.
I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I want my people in my loop. I don't want my people in their loop. And I don't want to work out of their loop. So you can, I mean, again, that's entirely up to you. It's just my own personal preference to do it that way. But yeah, so like they could copy like I'm doing. So don't, forget that you have this option right here of any document, which is make a copy into your loop, which is wherever. So that's what I do. I just make a copy of the documents, put it back in my loop, archive the old one. It just makes it for better organization later. And if the deal doesn't come together, I want my people and their consumer guide and their paperwork to be in my loop, not in now a loop that's getting archived by the listing agent. And then I got to start all, well, you can make a copy out of it, but I just don't see the benefits of doing that. Anybody else? Can I stop share? All right. Well, if no one else has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and just end us for today a little early.
Thank you.
I did record it. Go ahead.
How do I get the calendar for the classes this month?
It's in your, well, first of all, we have one right at the front desk,
Okay,
as well as every single Sunday in your newsletter that goes to your KW email has the calendar in the newsletter.
oh, okay, that's right. Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, have a good day.
See you guys.